Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Dare to be Disturbed. My name is Megan, but most of you on the internet know me as GameFreak982928. Dare to be Disturbed is a YouTube web show where I will be examining creepypastas and disturbing myths and theories about various cartoons and video games. In this episode, however, I won't be looking at any myths, theories, or creepypastas. Instead, I will just give you a brief backstory of my life, my decision to make these videos, and at the end I will give you a brief description of how I'm going to be reviewing the stories I come across. As a child, I was, well, awkward, shy, just a little chubby. I was also a very, very weird kid. This didn't sit well with the other kids in our little town of Gander, Newfoundland, where appearances and conformity meant everything. So I hardly need tell you that I had very few friends. As a direct result, I developed some quirky obsessions. In a town where most girls didn't own a gaming system, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I was in love with and extremely passionate about video games. They were my escape. I had so many systems. My first system was the Nintendo 64, and it was, for the most part, my best friend. I went through junior high carrying a massive binder full of nothing but official video game artwork from many of my favorite series. I weighed the thing after. It was 15 pounds. But I carried it everywhere, and on the rare occasion that someone had a question for me about a character, I beamed at the opportunity to show them every picture I had of them, and to tell story after story about why this character was one of my many, many idols. When I graduated, I was voted the biggest gamer female. Out of the 100 or 200 students who graduated with me, I was the only one nominated for this award. As I said, a very strange child indeed. I also loved cartoons, but not just any cartoons. I had a deep affection for very specific cartoons. To explain this, I was a huge fan of the classic Suppo series, Rocket Power, but I wasn't extremely fond of Rugrats, even though it was produced by the same company and the art style was similar. I think it's also important to mention that I was never a fan of the same things that the other kids liked. The aforementioned example is a perfect demonstration of this. The other girls loved the cute little babies of Rugrats. I, on the other hand, was far more entertained by Otto Rocket trying to pull off a Super McVarial 900, or Twister's hilarious commentary throughout each episode. Usually when I tried to talk about how much I loved the show, the others would say they had no idea what I was talking about and just talk about their shows instead. Also, I should mention that some cartoons, for some strange reason, whenever I got into a series that the mainstream liked, they seemed to not like it as soon as they found out I did. The Pokemon anime became big in grade 4, and as soon as I started collecting the cards and the figures, the mainstream switched to Digimon. I got into Digimon, they got into Beyblade. When I was 11, I loved Dora the Explorer and other shows on Treehouse. The other kids chastised me over liking a kids show, while they all watched South Park. When I got to high school and was allowed to watch South Park, I fell in love with the show. I still love it to this day. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. At that point, the girls started wearing Dora the Explorer book bags to school with Care Bear pencil cases. But though these obsessions were obvious to me, and a core part of my identity in my eyes, I had another obsession. An obsession I didn't even realize I had until very recently. I was obsessed with fear. It all started when I realized, as a child, that I was afraid of robots. More specifically, space and underwater exploration robots. The Canadarm, for example. I heard from someone that the best way to conquer a fear is to learn everything you can about the thing you're afraid of. So I went to the library on numerous occasions, and with the help of the library staff found book after book after book about robots. In one of these books, I found a term that would lead to more exploration. Robophobia. I looked this up, and everything snowballed from there. I started studying phobias. I learned everything about them that I could. A friend lent me an article from Time magazine, which listed almost every single phobia and their meanings. Electrophobia, the fear of chickens, and agoraphobia, the fear of experiencing a panic attack, for example. Some were just ridiculous, such as anatidaephobia, the fear that somewhere, somehow, a duck is watching you. Or, pardon me, hippopotamonstrosis the fear of long words. Generally, though, when I looked at the article and read through the lists, the atmosphere around me seemed to turn somber. I closed myself out from the world around me, which seemed to turn completely gray whenever that article was in my sight. I almost felt empty inside. That was until my eyes passed over a single phobia on the list. Phobiophobia. I honestly, in that pittance of time, felt a shot of panic in my chest. I remember it to this day. I was in my parents' house, which seemed, at the time, huge and empty. My mama was upstairs, but I felt like I was alone. I just remember me, the chair, the article, and an empty room. Phobiophobia is the fear of phobias, or to be more simple, the fear of fear itself. The period of time I spent researching these phobias passed after about 4 months or so. I figured at the time it was just a passing phase, just something I went through out of sheer boredom. You know how sometimes, as a child, you do something that seems almost pointless or stupid? Then when you grow up you realize that what you thought was insignificant as a child was a key event that molded you into who you are today? I came to that realization. I remembered when I overheard some students talking about something that creeped them out, I'd idly look them up. I'd be drawn to things that I knew would terrify me, make me unable to sleep at night. To this very day, I still, it would seem, go out of my way to experience fear. It was a morbid fascination of mine that I never truly realized I had until now. Now I'm 22. I'm still awkward, shy, and to my chagrin, a little chubby. I still have every single video game system I ever bought. My N64 still works, and honestly, I still consider it one of my best friends. I still have that binder. It's sleeping in its cherished place underneath my bed at my parents' house. I still love very specific cartoons, and usually when I talk about them, people still have no idea what I'm talking about. South Park isn't very big here in St. John's apparently, and no one got my Mysterion costumette sci-fi on the rock. But most of all, I am still a very, very weird kid. But some things have changed. I've become a member of the Gothic subculture. My apartment is full of skulls, black roses, Victorian decor, and much more. I even have a little black cat. His name is Prince Testament Nightshade. I mentioned that I'm still weird, right? I now have many friends, and they're all super accepting of my oddities that I was once shunned for. I'm, as they put it, just the right amount of weird. I also have more hobbies. I've embraced my artistic side. Drawing, what started as an idle childhood pastime, is now one of my passions. I've also grown affections for comics. I'm almost as passionate about comics as I am about video games. Comics based on video games such as Mega Man or Sonic, nobody can, or will, understand just how truly happy they make me. But also my research. See, when I started out as a kid, I didn't have the internet. Now everything is just a click of the keys away. I have limitless information about everything. Video games, cartoons, comics, and yes, fear. But something wonderful, something I could never have dreamed of as a child happened. All of my fascinations have come together through the art of creepypasta. short stories, theories, and myths made up that are meant to disturb the reader, oftentimes being related to a popular franchise. Once again, I became obsessed with something. This brings me to now, starting this series. I want to look at these creepypastas and review them, like my binder, which became a compendium of artwork. I want these videos to become a collection of all the creepypastas I've read that have affected me. I want it to be a database of my personal feelings with each story. But why? Maybe it's just a weird, creepy little girl's attempt to fully embrace her dark side, come to terms with it. Or maybe she's just trying to conquer her fear of fear itself the only way she ever knew how, by learning and rationalizing everything. And with that long, sappy story out of the way, let's move on to the outline for the videos. When I review a creepypasta, it's going to be graded under two categories: how good is it, and how scary it is. Each category is broken down into three factors. How good is it is broken into notoriety, believability, and entertainment. The notoriety factor is how far spread the creepypasta is. How famous is this creepypasta? If you were to say just the title of the creepypasta, how many people would say, I know exactly what you're talking about? This factor is graded in three categories. Infamous, meaning that just about everybody would know what you're talking about. Spreading, as in it's not quite there yet, but it is getting around. And underground, which means only a very select few who are die-hard fans of the franchise that this creepypasta is about would know what you're talking about. The second factor is believability. How believable the creepypasta is. This is rated 1 to 10. The more believable the creepypasta or theory is, the higher the rating. It also means how likely is it that this myth or creepypasta could have happened. In the case of hacked gaming, fan-made games are not counted in this category. Also, how scary is it within the context of the story? For example, bleeding robots in a Mega Man creepypasta would be less believable than dying Pokemon, just because robots don't generally bleed. The third factor is entertainment. How entertaining is this myth? It is also, like believability, rated 1 to 10. The creepypasta can be entertaining for a myriad of reasons. It can be entertaining because it's genuinely scary, or it can be entertaining because, like the infamous Harry Potter fanfiction My Immortal, it's god-awful. The second category, how scary a myth is determined by three factors: the disturbance factor, the paranoia factor, and the fear factor. Disturbance factor is how scary the myth or creepypasta is immediately. This can include jump scares or disturbing imagery. This is again graded from 1 to 10. The second factor is the paranoia factor. How scary the myth or creepypasta is over time. In other words, how likely is this myth or creepypasta to haunt you or to change how you see the related franchise? Also, how long it took me to recover from reading this myth. This is also graded 1 to 10. Finally, the fear factor. This is how scary the myth or creepypasta is overall. Between the disturbance factor and the paranoia factor, this factor is a combination of both the previous factors divided by 20. Now, I know this seems a little too complicated for some people, but please try to remember that I'm doing this for basically not just to entertain you guys, and I really hope I do, but I'm really doing this for myself. I felt like doing it, and this is the way that I really want to do it, because I feel like I'm not getting a proper grading scheme if I don't do it like this. I feel like I'd almost be missing something if I didn't evaluate these myths and creepypastas as intricately as I am. Finally, I just wanted to say a few casual words about my videos. Yes, I know this particular video sucks. It contains a sappy story nobody cares about, and the quality is bad. I'm using my laptop speaker, and I don't have a good camera, so you're just getting a slideshow, basically. I apologize. I promise you, I have a microphone. It's currently misplaced. I haven't seen it since I moved into my new apartment, but I swear before I record my next video, I will have a proper microphone for you wonderful people. Also, I just recently got a job, so I'm hoping at some point to be able to afford a proper video camera. I mentioned this in my advertisement for my other series that I want to work on, called The Great Canadian Gamer Chick A. I still haven't gotten one, obviously, as Great Canadian Gamer Chick A, which was supposed to start about 3 years ago, hasn't quite taken off. I'm sorry. But I'm hoping to be able to afford one soon, or at least get somebody to help me who has a proper camera. Please don't let the quality of this video scare you away from my series. I promise it will get better. I'm just basically using the tools I have right now to get my ideas out there. Also, I know people aren't going to necessarily agree with how I rate creepypastas. Some will like them more than I will, some will hate them more than I do. But while I encourage you to share your thoughts with me, that's after all what the comment section is for, please be nice. I know trolling is fun. I've done it on occasion, but I'm a little sensitive, so if you could just, be a little nice. You don't have to be extremely polite, but yeah, try and spare my feelings, okay? I also encourage you, if you see a creepypasta or myth that you really want me to do, inbox me or put it in the comments, and I'll try to do every single creepypasta I can. If I don't want to do it for some reason, I will let you know personally as to why not. Also, finally, I do realize that there are other people out there doing these videos, and I know I'm gonna get comments like copycat or that I'm stealing ideas from them. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I had no intention to steal anyone's ideas. A lot of the creepypastas I will be getting is from the Creepypasta Wikia, and while I will try to avoid, by any means necessary, copying or doing the same thing that other YouTube users are doing, I just really want to do these creepypastas, and if somebody has done them before, unfortunately there's nothing I can really do about that, but my commentary is coming from me. The only thing or ideas that I will be sharing that's somebody else's is the creepypastas themselves, or if I've seen another reviewer that I truly agree with, I will post a link to their video in the description saying why I agree with them or why I don't agree with them, and that's if I decide to feature their commentary in my video. All of this would also, of course, be done with their permission. And with that, that's the first episode of Dare to be Disturbed. Well, not the first episode, basically the introduction. The long-winded, unimportant introduction. So now that that's out of the way, once I get my mic, we can get into the fun stuff. I just wanted to say that the first creepypasta that I will be doing is the Rugrats creepypasta of the Rugrats theory. I will be doing this one because reading that one just, I don't know, cemented my idea to make these videos. So please stay tuned until I can get that video up. I promise it won't be too long. And have a great day, everybody.